Today we got another battle of the stash running backs. And just like yesterday's video, I'm kind of split on this one. I kind of had a good idea going into this when I was putting it together. And I was like, yeah, I feel good about this running back. But the more I look at this, the dichotomy is really tight for me. I don't know. It could be minute by minute, day by day with which one I prefer. I kind of like them both. I kind of want them both. But let me know who you would rather have in the comments below. I really want to hear about this. Kind of break those ties for me because I like them both. But we're talking about Blake Corum and Jonathon Brooks. We're going to deep dive both of them together. We're going to look at them side by side with the metrics and see what we want to go with today. This is going to help you make your choice if you got to pick between the two. Give you that confirmation bias that you need on these players. Let you know the sound alarm when it comes to stashing these players because things are coming to a head with both of these running backs. And you're going to want to have one or both, depending on your lineups, your bench, whatever's going on with your fantasy team, whatever situation you're in. Maybe you can't. It is what it is, but we're looking at them today. But before we begin, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're doing these deep dives every day. We're looking at the trending players. We're looking at the guys coming back from injury. We're seeing what they're doing at practice. We're using these videos to help you set your lineups and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. Don't disappoint him. And click that button. But we got a dichotomy here. We got a battle between two of the top running backs in the 2024 NFL Draft class. And it's Blake Corum, Jonathon Brooks. Jonathon Brooks drafted in the second round. He's very electric. Good in space. Fun to watch, good in the passing game. Can house it on any given play. We got the size on it. We got the beef on him. Speaking about beef, Blake Corum, 27 reps on the bench press. One of the top running backs ever in that department. On top of that, most NFL-ready running back in the class. Just stout at all phases, from pass blocking, running up the gut, catch the ball in the backfield. Not over the moon on anything, but very productive at the college level, especially in 2022 at Michigan. Both these running backs have some good traits, but they're both in fascinating situations, which could really break the ties here in fantasy football. Dynasty, I have Jonathon Brooks ahead of Blake Corum by a fair margin, but I also like Blake Corum. One of my home dynasty leagues, I got them both. I picked them both up in my rookie drafts. I got them stashed, but I had some picks there, so I also got some of the other wide receivers. I think in that league I also got Brian Thomas Jr. So I'm looking at these two backs and Brian Thomas Jr. for the long haul. Of course, some other players, but that's what I remember off the top of my head. I like both backs. I've been buying into both backs all year long prior to the NFL draft, and here we are. But for redraft, it's a different dichotomy. And just looking at these back. Of course, Jonathon Brooks hasn't done anything on the season. Blake Corum, just a little bit. 5 carries in week 5 against the Green Bay Packers. But it looked good. He looked explosive. He looked like a back that can get it done at the NFL level. We went over that tape a few days ago. Blake Corum has that upside. And Jonathon Brooks is back at practice. We covered that on the channel a couple days ago. His practice clips. Go take a look at that. Today, he sat out of practice, but he just wasn't in pads. He took a couple of handoffs. He got some work in. But, of course, you're not going to put him in pads. We're just now getting back from the injury. They're not going to do that in a Thursday practice for him. He's still ramping up right now. It's going to be some weeks. That's just what it told us with that move. It's going to be some weeks until we start practicing on Thursdays and getting ready for the games. That being said, each day we're getting closer and it's ramping up. Hopefully by Thanksgiving time, he's on the field, he's giving us some looks, and we can see what's going on under the hood. But looking at the college production here, at Michigan, Blake Corum was the hoss, especially in 2022, 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns. 2023, 1,200 yards. There was a ramp up. He had a knee injury in 2022. After 2022, he would have went out for the NFL draft, would have been one of the top running backs selected. However, that knee injury happened late, and he just had to come back. It was a stacked draft class at the running back position, and going into that draft class with a knee injury, kind of like what Jonathon Brooks is going through right now, would have tanked his stock. It wasn't like this year's draft class. It was kind of light. It would have tanked his stock. going back to Michigan was a good idea. He had to ramp things up, but in the back end of the season, he really went off. But in 2022, that most productive year, 3.35 yards after contact per attempt, 473 missed tackles. He was solid. And what we saw in week 5 was what we saw in 2022 is more explosive, more assertive, reading leverages, looking good. 3.04 yards after contact per attempt on his career. On his career, 2,058 yards after contact. The whole 9 there. He had 84 carries of 10 plus yards on his career, 25 last year, 36 the year before, and 22 in 2021. That being said, one of the most productive running backs you'll look at because he went off those last 2 years at Michigan and he was very productive. We had one 200-yard game to his name. Michigan State put up 177 on Washington, 171. Penn State got 166 dropped on them. Nebraska 162. Penn State again 145 on the road. Washington 134 again. That being said, Blake Corum can take over games. He's got that upside. But now we're looking at Jonathon Brooks. He played behind Bijan Robinson. He played behind Roschon Johnson. But Jonathon Brooks came in, showed off that upside. And you looked at every year there. Over 6 yards per carry. 6.8 in 2021, 6.6 in 2022, and then in 2023, when you got the touches, 6.1. Also, 3.91 yards after contact per attempt in 2023 with a full workload. 63 missed tackles. Would have more to that if we could finish the season, but he tore his ACL late that year. 5.07 yards after contact per attempt on 2022. Very solid, but on 30 carries, and then 4.76 on 21 carries in 2021. But he makes guys miss. He's explosive. 24 carries of 10 plus yards last year. We saw that on the field. They put him out in space. They put him out in the slot. He's good in the passing game. 25 catches last year. That's good to go. Now we're looking at his production. Again, it's 1 year production, but 218 yards against Kansas, 129 against Oklahoma. So we are putting up numbers against some bigger schools, but not as large of a sample as what Blake Corum has. And then we're comparing these guys to draft stock. Jonathon Brooks, despite the ACL, got drafted in the 2nd round. And then it was not just the Carolina Panthers thing. Many draft aficionados, many dynasty gamers, the whole NFL draft community had Jonathon Brooks pretty high up their board. They had him pretty high up their board. It was not a surprise that he went to the 2nd round to the Panthers. We knew going in there was going to be a ramp up for Jonathon Brooks, for him seeing the field. Blake Corum goes in the 3rd round. He did compete at the combine. Jonathon Brooks did, obviously, due to the ACL knee injury. 4.53 40-yard dash, 27 reps on bench, and a good agility score. And at 205 pounds, he's rocked up, jacked up, ready to go. Moves well for his size. We saw that in week 5. Jonathon Brooks, 6 foot 216. We got size. We got size, and we can move because we saw that on tape. This guy's got some gusto to his game, but the situation here is what really is going to matter here. We got Jonathon Brooks coming back from injury. Might be a few more weeks until we actually see him take some snaps on the field. Chuba Hubbard's going off, looking good. One of the best running backs in the league. There's no slight to Chuba Hubbard, but we could have like a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs light situation in the future here. That's what all NFL teams are wanting anyways. And the thing is, with the Rams, Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, Sean McVay's not allowing Kyren Williams to give up many touches. He's running at 54 snaps per game, leading all running backs in touches per game, opportunities per game, pass blocking snaps per game, routes ran per game, getting all the workload. If that twig snaps from all that work, Blake Corum's going to get that opportunity. If Kyren Williams slows down, or if they want to slow down the workload so he's fresher to the end of the season, Blake Corum's going to get some opportunities. Ronnie Rivers is a veteran there, but there's a big difference in talent level between him and Ronnie Rivers. Chuba Hubbard's been looking good, but Jonathon Brooks, talent-wise, better than Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, bad vision, bad patience. Very electric, though. He can scoot a little bit. He's all flash and no steak. Jonathon Brooks has it all. He has it all. He could be a guy that just gets 8 to 10 touches in a game, but can really hit massively. Especially if he gets the ball in space, gets a crease. He's one of those home run hitting running backs. That's something you could see here. The situation here is, can Kyren Williams let up one way or another? And can Chuba Hubbard let up one way or another? Or are they willing to allow this to be a 1A, 1B backfield? I think the odds of the Rams allowing this to be a 1A, 1B backfield isn't going to be unless the injury bug forces them to let it happen. That being said, Jonathon Brooks, it might be some weeks before he's back. And then after that, it might be some weeks before he starts becoming that 1B back that we're hoping to see. Blake Corum might just get the workload due to Kyren Williams getting way too many touches he should be. But Chuba Hubbard's seeing a lot of touches as well, but not as many as Kyren Williams. He's running on 41.3 snaps per game versus Kyren Williams 55.8. But the odds of him breaking down isn't as much, but it still could happen potentially. But we're also looking at routes ran per game, and Kyren Williams is at 25.8. He's up there with some of the top wide receivers, and then Chuba Hubbard's at 16.7. A lot of workload there, a lot of opportunities. Chuba's getting more targets though. He's getting more opportunities. He's rushed for more yards, even though he's carrying it 14 times per game versus Kyren's 19 times per game. So Chuba, at the end of the season, should be a little bit fresher. He's running on 65.8% of the snaps. Like we said going into the season, I did a Miles Sanders video here, and I said in that video that Dave Canales does not care what these backs did last year. They're going to let them battle it out for the touches, and they did that. He also wants them to compete. He also wants his guys to be fresh. That's also an indicator for Jonathon Brooks because he's better than Miles Sanders, has more upside. He's got youth on his side as well. So that's an indicator that he's going to be able to get some snap share, and that might mean like a 30 to 40% snap share once he's good and ready, which means he could be getting maybe like 8 to 10 carries a game, something like that, and he's got the quickness, the burst to really go off with that type of workload. Kyren Williams, 85.3% snap share, 97.3% opportunity share. He's just not letting off the gas enough to allow any of the other running backs on the team to get any opportunities. If he breaks down though, with that workload, it's going to be quite easy for a running back to break down. The Rams just had their bye, and the Rams have the rest of the season to get through, and he's getting a lot of work per game. That is a very scary situation here for Kyren Williams. They should dial that back a bit, but he's getting a lot of work like last year, and we're looking at the workload here, especially with the other running backs. Blake Corum's getting more work than Ronnie Rivers, and that should continue. He's more explosive. He's the third-round pick. He's the guy that was productive at the Power 5 level. He is very much like Kyren Williams, but a little bit different. As they're good in all phases, they're very stout. Kyren Williams is one of the most dependable running backs in football. And we're looking at Chuba Hubbard here. 485 yards on the ground, 5.6 yards per carry, looking damn good. Miles Sanders, 3.3 yards per carry. Still getting some workload there. Getting 21% of the rushing attempts. Jonathon Brooks could eat into that. He could easily eat into that. That could be his. He could be getting 10 to 15 to 20. He could be really stealing that, especially once he gets rolling. And he could be eating into Chuba Hubbard. And you never know what could happen to any of these running backs. But we could have a Thunder Lightning scenario or Lightning scenario here in Carolina. And then Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, they should be splitting the work more. When you look at these numbers, just to keep Kyren Williams a little bit more fresh in the back nine of the season. But if he keeps running at this clip, that could be very dangerous. But when you look at this dichotomy, I like Jonathon Brooks a little bit better due to the size and just athleticism. However, for redraft, it's a different animal. It's a totally different animal here because this is a sprint to the finish. I look at Kyren Williams as a falling knife with that much workload, 54 snaps per game, leading all running backs. That is scary for the full season. He could be the Iron Man. He could be the Cal Ripken Jr. here. But if he goes down, you're probably looking at Blake Corum getting that workload. That could potentially happen. We got Jonathon Brooks here, though. Very electric. Might be sharing the workload with Chuba Hubbard. There's a lot of variance here. I like them both. I want them both stashed. Eventually, Brooks won't be in your IR spot anymore. That ain't going to be happening. That being said, I think for the short game, for the now, Blake Corum, long game. End of season, I definitely like Jonathon Brooks. If both of them had the gateway open of touches, I would pick Jonathon Brooks. Situation-wise, I think I like Corum's situation a little bit better. I'd rather stash for that. But I don't think Brooks' situation is that far off. He's coming back for a knee injury. That's a major variance. That's going to be some time before he's back on the field. and then there's going to be some time before he starts ramping up his touches. That being said, I don't know where that's going to be. Is it going to be around Thanksgiving time, a little bit afterwards? Blake Corum, though, the needle could drop on any minute. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.